Yeah, I don't drink much in the morning, but I do occasionally drink in the morning.
Hello and welcome to Basic AF, a mostly tech podcast. Tom Anderson and Jeff Battersby together again. Thank you for being here with us. Jeff, how's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm back in Jeffrey Dahmer's basement. As you'll note, nobody else can, but I'm starting to decorate, but I'm keeping this forever, I think. I pulled out the Christmas lights, and I'm going to put another string a little lower in here to give me some cute little ambient lighting in my basement as I cut up the body.
Yeah, maybe sprinkle in
a great thing.
A few fairy lights as you go.
I could do something
Next
like
level.
that for sure. But I'm back in New York. I spent 3 weeks in California, hanging with my mom, and she's doing great.
Good.
Way, so I'm very happy about that. And so I'm back in the usual place, and here we are. We are ready to play again.
Here we go. Yes, another episode, and happy holidays, everybody. As we record this, it is Sunday, December 10th, so mid-December, right in that sweet spot between Thanksgiving in the U.S. and Christmas. Work's starting to slow down because everybody's burning that vacation if they have it.
And so Boxing Day in the UK.
Yeah, so we're rolling into the holidays. We're right in the thick of it and looking forward to that. Hope everything is going well for you out there listening. As they have done for the last several years now, towards the end of the year, Spotify and Apple Music have done their end-of-year recaps for podcast listeners, music. So Apple does replay, Spotify does wrapped. So I got a message the other day, Jeff, from a friend of mine. And she said, I thought this was good news. Spotify said, my most listened to podcast was yours.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That should be somebody else.
I was happy about that. Then she says, there's more.
Go ahead. Oh, there's more.
There's more. No one needs to know it's by default because I don't listen to any other podcasts regularly.
It's funny because a friend of mine, who shall remain unnamed, but he'll know who he is when I talk about him, sent me a picture of his most played podcast. We're number 2 out of 3.
Hey, I'll take it.
So we're right in the middle. And he said if we want to get to the top of the list, we have to talk more about history.
I don't think we're smart enough for that. So sorry, buddy.
I'm
happy in the middle there.
Definitely.
But the way I took that, I was like, hey, at least, we're worth listening to a single podcast. So we're grateful for that. But what they also do, Jeff, is they give us a list of things for Spotify for podcasters. Mm-hmm. And so to kind of wrap this up pretty quick, we were the top 10 podcast for 10 people, top 5 for 8, and the top podcast for 4 fans. So thank you, everybody, for that. I'm very grateful for that.
I'm making clicky noises. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So we do appreciate that. We're just closing up our first year of this little show. In January will be a year, I think, towards the end of January. So 11 months or something. Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't quit yet. But here we are.
Right. We have managed to do it again. Holy crap. And we're incredibly grateful. I'm not going to type this. We're incredibly grateful to have all of you here listening to us. And we do continue to grow. And so if you'd like to help us to continue to grow, please be sure to subscribe. If you leave reviews which we're still getting reviews on Apple's podcast site. And I don't know about, you said we're getting a little bit of something on YouTube now. And
we've got not too much going on YouTube. Spotify, we've got 4.5 star rating. So thank you everybody for that. Of course, there's only 2 votes there so far, but hey, we'll take it. We've got 13 on 4. Apple.
5. Wait a second. 50% of us didn't like it.
No, I think it was a 4 and a 5. Reviews. So it was 4.5. But there were only 2. But we do appreciate that. I know we're trying to jump into Spotify. The thing with Spotify, though, that bugs me is we're there because there are a lot of people there. And if you listen there, we do appreciate it. And this is not a dig against anybody except for Spotify. But I don't like their approach towards podcasting that takes it from an open platform to this Spotify exclusive, right? Joe Rogan's the biggest one, but they've got other ones. And that's not really what podcasting is set up to do.
No, I know. And it's lame. That whole thing is, I don't know. It's a little... there are a bunch of them that have done stuff like that, the Wonderies and not that we wouldn't, if you guys wanted to take us on, you'd take your money,
cash, we'll sell out. Right.
Yeah, we'd be happy to take your money, but but until then, you suck.
Yeah,
there are a couple of podcasts that I listen to that became Spotify exclusives. Two of them, actually, one of them was one of the New York Times best podcasts this year, which is a pretty good podcast that I love called Heavyweight. Heavyweight's a pretty interesting little podcast. But there were a bunch of podcasts that were kind of in the open that went over to Spotify, and then you couldn't get them, but only on Spotify. And right. I wasn't bouncing between two apps. No. I wasn't going to get on the Spotify app to listen to, first of all, well, never mind. We're leaving politics out of this stuff. But I saw that look on your face, pal.
Mm-hmm.
But there are reasons that that I was not going to be donating money to Spotify, chief of which was, donating money to Spotify. But yeah, the closed platform thing, I don't like too much, And so a lot of those podcasts that were really great, that were in the open, that were sponsored or being run by other places, is suddenly I wasn't listening to them anymore. I stopped listening to Heavyweight because it was on Spotify. There's another one called Science Versus that was also one of my favorites that I didn't get to listen to anymore. They are back. I think Spotify found Jesus and figured out that, you can't just be in a little private world and listen only to you because you're going to lose listeners. So
they just laid off a ton of people too. Spotify did.
I know they did. Right. Well, and you talked about that before, we're a podcast production team of two, actually, technically one. I just show up and talk. So, and some of those places, were
they're
15,
heavy.
20 people.
Yeah, they're big.
And unless you're This American Life or, have the resources of the New York Times, so, you're one of those other big ones. I don't see it.
You don't necessarily need that either. I mean, I don't know how many people like Rogan has, but I feel like it's just a few.
Rogan? I don't listen to that guy. But I
mean, he's huge though, and he's done it for years, and he does 3-hour shows a couple times a week. And that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure he's got some people doing production.
And I know he's got some people that help him out, but I just wonder how big that team is.
I bet you it's somewhere between 3 and 5.
Yeah.
Somebody doing the editing and stuff like that. But and he's doing video too, so it's, I think, much more difficult. The times where we cross over each other and you shut my mouth via editing, if you do that, occasionally you do. That's harder to do on video unless you get clipped video. You're
right.
A little more difficult.
Yeah, and he's done it for so long. I mean, they've got it down. I mean, he's done podcasting for a long, long time. So
yeah,
it's.
So anyway, there's reason that the Spotify's laying off a bazillion people, even though they made more money this year than they did last year. Funny how that is.
Yeah, well, got future plans, man. They got future plans.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
take over the world.
Just goes to show it's better to be the owner. So this show, we want to talk about some new things that we have, some new gadgets, other things. So Jeff.
Yeah,
you picked up something new, yeah?
Yeah, are we going to talk about that first?
Nah, let's go with
we'll start with the easy one. So I told you that I was getting rid of Fantastical, just not seeing the upside of that heavy. I spent the last, year and a half, 2 years maybe now, in their subscription model, and I really like the application, but the amount of money that I was paying for that wasn't seeing the benefit. And so I started playing with Apple's calendar, and was pretty satisfied with it, with how it worked. Except for one thing I started noticing was I would always reach for the menu bar to get an idea of, what's coming next, or hop onto a Zoom meeting or whatever it is that I needed to do. And there's no menu extra for Apple's calendar, which seems insane to me, by the way. There's no reason that Apple couldn't have popped that in there. So I was on the search for something, and I may not have finalized this decision yet, but there's an app by a company called Mowgli, which I guess the guy's maybe a Jungle Book fan or something like that. I'm not sure, but they have a little free. You can send them a little money if you want to, but a little free menu extra app called Itsycal, Itsycal. Presume that means it's like itsy bitsy, but it's a great little menu extra that I have now, that I can now see what it is that is on my calendar for a given day. The one thing it doesn't do is when I hit it, it doesn't open up the calendar app. At least I haven't figured out a way to configure that. I haven't had a Zoom meeting in the last few days since I've had that there, so I don't know whether or not I'll be able to jump on Zoom meetings, although it appears that it should allow me to do that. But that was a good, easy, quick fix for that, knee-jerk reaction that my arm has. So my arm has a knee-jerk.
It's funny how quickly you get used to that.
I used it every day.
Yeah,
I almost never
multiple times a day.
Fantastical.
No,
I mean, I never actually opened the app. I would add stuff from there. That became the tool that I have. So anyway, it's Mowgli.com, MOWGLII.com, and pretty slick little app. And at least for me, is solving that little issue that I was having. And I got to say, I'm really happy with Apple Calendar. There are other things that I really like about it. One of them is it shows up in CarPlay, which Fantastical didn't.
Right. I remember we talked about that.
Yeah, I could see my schedule in CarPlay.
Now, for me, what happens with that is I've got actually had set up Apple Calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And so they still show up in CarPlay just because I happen to have it set up. Like, it's not Fantastical showing up in CarPlay, but
right.
But net effect's the same thing. That menu item you sent, when I looked at it, has kind of an old school feel to it, like a classic Mac OS menu bar thing. Yeah, kind of like that. It's got a nice.
Yeah, it's
not quite retro, but little touches of it there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not, Fantastical allows you to color things differently and do stuff like that. This is a little lower key in that regard too. But all I'm really looking for is a place to say, what's next?
Right. And I think we talked about this before.
Go ahead.
Apple Calendar doesn't have calendar sets, right? Like, you can have multiple calendars, but you can't do a set. And what I mean by a calendar set is in Fantastical, it allows you to set up custom groups with certain calendars in them. So I use that a lot because I've got like a planning calendar that I put stuff on. I've got a work calendar, obviously. So when I go to work, I have it set automatically to switch to my workday calendar, which pulls all my other like side hustle stuff out, my personal stuff out. And then we've got a couple of different like shared calendars at work to show who's in the office, who's out, help desk appointments and stuff like that. And so I can quickly filter that stuff out with the groups. And honestly, that's probably what's keeping me there the most.
Yep.
Because I use it all the time. And I'm like, of course I would pick that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's not a feature. It's a feature I had set up, but I didn't use that much. So that's the reason. And by the way, the reason that Apple Calendar didn't show up in CarPlay for me is because I deleted it. I had it removed. Apple has now allowed you to delete apps that you don't use that come as part of the OS. And so that was one of the ones that I don't need two calendars. I need one, and oftentimes what would happen is, instead of opening up Fantastical, if I got a meeting invite, it would open up Apple Calendars like, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
So that was a way for me to kind of mitigate that friction, was to delete it. So once I added it back, I was like, look at that. I can see those things in CarPlay, which is great. So
yeah. All right, good. Glad that's working out.
So that's we'll see how that plays in the future. Maybe my subscription. I don't drink much in the morning, but I do occasionally drink in the morning. My subscription was really good this morning. My subscription for Fantastical doesn't run out, I don't think, until February, so I still have time to repent.
Oh, quick side note on subscriptions. How we were talking that I moved from Craft to Bear.
Yes.
Right. And I was going to get all my stuff out of Craft. Uh-huh. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. So I'm still on the subscription with them. I went month to month, though, so I'm going to try to get it out. Because I got a lot of work stuff in there, so I need to export that out. Just make sure I've got it somewhere else. But anyhow, I got something new this week, too.
What did you get?
So back in episode 21, Jeff, you talked about rock, paper, pencil from Astropad.
Yeah.
So that's the screen cover for your iPad that connects to the magnets on the device that pairs with a custom tip for the Apple Pencil. It's like a little ballpoint tip. You spoke highly of it, so I ordered one, and it took, about that amount of time since episode 21 to this, which is episode 24. So I don't know what kind of production process they have for these, but I've had it a
little
couple
elves
of days.
making them one by one.
They might be.
Yeah.
But I will say, first impressions, quite happy with it. It is, it's really nice. I do like, of course, there've been these paper-like and type things for a long time that press onto the screen and kind of stay on there. I liked this one when you talked about it being magnetic so that you can take it off if you want to. I've left it on. I've found that the kind of the matte texture of it knocks down the glare.
Yeah, definitely does.
Yep. And obviously it changes the colors a little bit on the display.
Not too bad.
But it's not too bad. So I think I might just leave it on. But yeah, so far I like it a lot. Feels good to write on. How many of the ballpoint tips did you get?
Just 2.
Okay, so now they're packing in 4.
Oh, that's charming.
So,
I feel a little ripped off.
Apparently they wear down. Which is a little surprising because it looks like a metal tip, but I guess it's not a hard metal tip. It's like
it is a metal tip, and I will tell you something else. The thing about that magnet and keeping the the Apple Pencil stuck to your iPad is that occasionally, if you're carrying it funny, it will fall off. Well, mine did, and it fell on the tip, unbeknownst to me. And when I was in California, I was letting my niece do some. She's a little kid, but she's a fantastic artist. Her mother's an artist, like really, really good artist. And so she has started, drawing stuff. So she was trolling me by drawing pictures of me on the iPad, as one does when you're 9 years old. And she, but there was a little edge on the tip that I had, and I didn't have any other tips with me. I left the 2 that I got. I left one at home, and so I've got it's not a big deal, but I've got slight little scratches in the cover as a result of that. So nothing that's going to drive me nuts, but I may have to get a replacement. Cover in the future. And we'll see.
I was looking at a YouTube video while I was waiting for it to show up, and one of the things the reviewer mentioned was that over time the little protector itself will start to get wear marks and things on it from the tips. And he noticed his tip was wearing down. So I'm guessing that's why they doubled the amount they give from 2 to 4. But it's about $40 if I recall. Like I said, it's been 3 years since I ordered it, but. It wasn't really that long. It's 6 weeks maybe. But I think it's about $40, I think. But if you do a lot of note taking with it, and you've really taken to it and have actually changed up some of your workflows because of it, right?
So, and this was kind of an accident. So I am working on a long-form writing project right now. And typically what happens when I'm doing is something like that is I'll write, and then I'll print out what I've written, and I'll rewrite on paper, and then I'll enter that information, and then I'll save a little archive of whatever it is that I've been writing. And by virtue of the fact that I was in California, I decided to try something different, which was exporting what I was writing on as a PDF and then opening that in, the preview app or whatever the heck it is in iOS these days, and start writing my edits that way by hand in the iPad. And one of the things I think I've said before is when it comes to writing, I have hideous handwriting, really, really bad handwriting. Have since I was a kid. I used to get like C's and D's in penmanship, as one does. They don't teach penmanship anymore these days, and they don't grade you for it. And they, teachers don't whack your fingers with a ruler anymore for it either if you do a bad job. But that's beside the point. But it was hard for me to write on the glass of the iPad without some kind of resistance coming from the iPad when I was writing on that. So one of the things that I'll note is I write with pencils. I have some nice mechanical pencils that I use, and the resistance between the lead on the pencil and the paper it slows down whatever it is that I do writing wise and makes it so it's legible. This, when I started taking notes, was exactly for me like paper was. So going forward, I'm not going to do any paper printouts, I don't think, except for maybe when I get to the end of the project and want to see it as a whole. Instead, I'm using this. And the other nice thing about it is I'm archiving all my edits. So I'm now, saving all the pages. And so I can go back to and see what it was that I had before. I can see notes that I wrote down, when they were. I'm just dating those things and putting it on there. So I'm finding that I'm liking it more and more. And that is, liking editing those documents more and more on the iPad. And I don't even think I would have considered it before. So it was kind of by accident, and didn't want to burn paper at my mom's house. So I thought, let me try this and see how it works out. And it worked out brilliantly. And that's all I'm going to do going forward. It's a really simple way. And I always have the iPad with me. So if I'm someplace and want to do something, all I have to do is export the PDF, sit and do the hand edits and enter them. Whereas before it's like, I can't do this. I got to wait till I get home because I got to print it out. And, so it's been a really good thing. I'm really very, very happy with how that's worked out.
Yeah, I think I will be as well. And, it feels like paper, and interestingly, it sounds like it too. Like when you're
it kind of does, right?
Yeah, so I don't even hear that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
I hear it.
Feels like,
very papery sounding.
Lead on paper type thing.
Yes. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, so good. It's Astropad's rock paper pencil. So about $40, I think. We
awesome.
both recommend.
Highly recommend. Yeah. If you're looking for something to put in your stocking, they shouldn't fold it up. Probably.
Right. That'll be a big stocking. But stick it under the tree.
Right.
It'll be Valentine's Day by the time you get it, but happy Valentine's Day, darling. There you go. Great. Thanks.
Indeed.
All right. So Jeff, tell us what
I
else
got another
got
new thing, Tom.
Yeah. What you got?
Buddy? So I've been driving a BMW X1 for a while. But I basically, to test the waters, have been leasing the same. I don't usually lease cars, but I decided before I was going to make some major, put a ring on it commitment to a vehicle, I was going to do that. So my lease was up, and I was actually looking at a Kia Sportage hybrid. But BMW, which you couldn't, by the way, find one to drive, nor could you order one. I couldn't even order a 2024 if I wanted to. That's how far out those things are. A really nice car, by the way. I did get to test drive one plug-in hybrid, but BMW wanted to get rid of all their 2023, so they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So I just as of Friday got into a 2023 BMW X1 with a premium package. They told me that I wasn't going to be able to get a moonroof because they were limiting that, I guess, putting it into new production vehicles instead of old ones. But I got that as well. But it's a pretty slick car. So the last BMW that I had CarPlay. Had some okay tech, but it was still mostly manual.
What model year was that one?
It is 2021.
Okay, so 2 years.
So, and 2023 is brand new model. So this is brand new version of the X1. 2022 was the same as mine. 2023 is the one.
Right, and that's the new production model.
Correct, the new production model. And technically, my lease was up in February, but they wanted to get me into it. And, December, they kept on saying, God bless them, you're never going to get a better deal than the one that we give you. But this is back in, as far back as September or October. The deal that I got into was pretty sweet. So it's pretty nice. But this X1 is pretty much all electronic. So there are, with very few exceptions, like stuff on the steering column, like volume controls and anything like that. There are a couple of those. Turn signal is going to be physical as well, but for the most part, everything is digital, which could be kind of annoying.
So that's touchscreen,
all touchscreen, really fat touchscreen too. By the way, I think it's somewhere along the lines 11.9 inch on one side, and then the main display, that has your speed and stuff like that on it, is also all digital, which you've got the ability to control. Really, really sleek looking. I'll send you pictures later just so you can see what it looks like. But okay. It's a really, really clean look. Kind of along the lines of an iPhone, as few buttons as possible. We'll see how annoying that gets for some things, but technically, I'm only using my iPhone for nav. I'm using my iPhone for, listening to podcasts, which, by the way, podcasts sound frigging amazing in there. Has a Harman Kardon speaker system that's pretty slick. But it's a mostly tech podcast. No, I'm sorry. It's mostly tech. It's a mostly tech vehicle, which I'm liking a lot. It's a little beefier X1. For whatever reason, I saw an X3 from about probably 2020, 2021. It is the same size as that X3 was a couple of years ago. So it's a nice, roomy inside. The biggest thing that I noticed, it used to in my previous X1, when you got in, you started the car up, and it took probably close to 15 seconds for CarPlay to load and for all of that stuff to work. Whatever they've not done in the new software, as soon as I get into the vehicle, it's already playing whatever's on my. And this is before I've even started the car. It's already playing whatever's on my phone or whatever I've been listening to. It's transferred it to there. It's instantaneous. Really kind of amazing. And this is kind of annoying about BMWs. There are some features that you can add, which I'll give that a little test today. But it has cruise control, but not adaptive cruise control. But it appears that that was something that I could add for 3 months for $0. We'll see what the next.
Oh my God, it's a subscription.
It's a frigging subscription.
Yeah, hard pass.
Well, for 3 months for $0, not a problem. So I'm going to test it and see. I don't need adaptive cruise control.
I love that. That's my favorite features in cars these days. Yeah,
it is a nice feature, but I don't need it.
Yeah, it's better in my wife's Infiniti than it is in the Subaru. Like, Subaru is good for like safety, and it's fine. But the one in the Infinity that she has, the QX60, like we take that on our long trips because it's bigger. We can pile all the stuff in there. But
yeah, of course.
Like, I mean, there were stretches when we were going down south this past summer where I don't touch the brake or the gas for hours. I mean, it just,
so you can sleep,
which is nice. Because all that, driver fatigue is a thing. And that's just all those little things that you don't think about until you have something like that. And you're like, oh, wow, this is pretty nice. But
yeah. And actually, this has cameras for that too. That's
right.
part of built-in feature. So it'll check and see if your eyes are wobbling a little bit and encourage you to pull over and get a cup of coffee or take a nap or do whatever it is. So there's
right. And then if you crash, the police will summon those, and then you'll go to jail. Good.
Right. Well,
good.
Right. Good. Well,
welcome to Nanny State. We love it.
So yeah, it's got a lot of good stuff. It has also a nice little feature. It has it'll parallel park for you, and it'll back into parking spots and back out of parking spots for you, which is, I'll confess, kind of cool.
Yeah.
I've played with it. It's probably not something that I'll use. I'm a pretty darn good parallel parker. Joke used to be I could park in a space in New York City that was smaller than my car. So I like the challenge of a good parallel park.
Yeah, I had a good case of that Friday night. We went to get pizza, and there's a tight little spot. There was a Tesla parked and kind of in the front space, and then the back space was, thankfully my car's pretty small and I was able to squeeze it in. But yeah, I impressed myself. I haven't done that for quite a while. I haven't had to parallel park for quite a while.
Yeah, it's because you live in the weeds.
Yeah.
I live in a place that's very popular downtown that you have to parallel park all the time now.
Well, we have that, but usually you can find a space because I like to park away as far as I can from people because they're asses and they'll beat the heck out of your car. Right. Yeah. So you know what I find interesting is they're putting these big touchscreens in cars.
Yeah.
So, and they're all doing it, right? So Subaru, BMW, all of them for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And there are fewer physical knobs.
Yeah, tons fewer.
But then at the same time, avoid distracted driving. And it's well, I can't do anything without looking at the stupid screen because if the knob's there, I can just, I know where that is. I can adjust the temperature. I can do this. I can do that. And they've done some studies that show it takes longer to do things on the touch screens, which means you're distracted for longer. And I'm just, I'm not a fan.
Yeah. Well, let me
I think they're fine for the display.
They are, and BMW got rid of. They had a little dial in the middle that you could control things with too. That was,
I think Mazda has that too. Yeah, because I was looking at the CX-50 before I bought the Crosstrack. But
yeah, no, they've gotten rid of that. But what they've added, remember when we were talking to my brother last 2 weeks, one of the things that he said is in his Solterra he had a feature called Hey Subaru.
Yep.
There is a feature. And I've shortened this just to BMW. We'll see how that works. But they have a Hey BMW feature that will control everything, which I'm going to take advantage of. Like you can turn the seat heater on. You can open windows if you want to. Open the back passenger window. So I'm gonna start trying to take advantage of that in lieu of touching the screen once I get everything kind of configured. And make it so it's my little baby. But it is a very sleek interior. Really, so far I've only had it. I've only driven 30 miles in it at most. And most of that was back from the dealership. I ran out to get groceries, but for the most part, not a lot of driving yet. But there's so far, really like it. We'll see how this plays. Got an oyster interior. I had a mocha interior last time, so we'll see. No food or drinks in my car, pal.
Noted in case I ever make it up there.
You can have water.
That works for me.
So anyway, it's I'll have more to report later as I begin to play with the tech in this, but it's a very tech heavy vehicle. I intend to make use of that Hey BMW feature and see how much I can and can't control with that. Plus,
the good news is it should work better than Siri. So if it doesn't, it's
one
really
hopes
bad.
so.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, let's put a tickler on the calendar for spring maybe after you've had
I think that's
some
a good
time
idea.
with it, and we'll do a little follow up, see see how it's gone. But yeah,
All
I'm
right.
looking forward to the pictures too. I want to take a look at it.
Yeah. I definitely will. I'll do that. I'll have to get outside today and program my garage remote. So I'll have it outside, and it's raining here. I don't know if I want it to get wet.
Nothing like that new car paranoia the first couple of weeks.
Right. You're driving around like everybody. I will say some goofball yesterday as I was driving home from grocery shopping. Some was leaving a gas station. So I left a space, but on you when you're driving through the space, that I'm leaving you to make sure no cars are coming, in the opposite direction. This person just kind of blew through it, and there was another car coming at pace. And it was like, if that car had hit the car that was crossing in front of me, it would have hit me. It would have been that would have been the story. So
yeah, so far I got my first and only door dings on it's not new now, it's almost a year old, in my own garage. Thank you, kids.
Don't you love that?
Yeah,
I've had that
great.
happen too.
I just
Whoops, the bikes fell over.
Shook my head ruefully and went about the day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I gotta love that stuff.
So, all right. Excellent. Yeah, looking forward to hearing about the how that goes as you get through the winter and into the spring.
All right. We'll see. We'll see how it plays. We'll see how it drives in the snow.
Excellent. Well, I think, Jeff, that about wraps this one up, right?
Look at us. We've done another show, Tom.
We have. You want to hit the credits for us on this one?
Sure. So if you want feedback, we'd love feedback. We do like to hear from you. Again, a shout goes out to Mr. Abe Frennis for sending us a note a couple weeks ago. But you can get us at feedback at basicafshow.com. I am no longer on Twitter, but you can find me on Threads and other places at Reyes Point. Tom, you show up as whom? Where?
On Threads, it would be Tom Anderson, which I'm on predominantly these days. Website, tomfanderson.com. You can sign up for the newsletter there.
Cool. And, the good stuff, all our show music is from Psychokinetics, also known as Celsius 7, who we will be getting on in a few weeks. He's recovering from surgery presently, so he's not up to doing any musical performance. Little shoulder work done. And Randall Martin Design, who I will note, I think I said this in our last episode as well, but he designed my sister's new book of poetry, which we'll pitch here in a little bit. But he did a brilliant job. It's a great book of poetry, and we'll talk about that. Maybe even get her on, even though that would make us mostly tech. But we can have her on and talk about that. Oh, my family. We're just going to get my family on.
Yes.
That's what we'll do to get guests.
Hanging out with the Battersbys.
Woohoo! We're a good crew.
All right. Well, that is a wrap for this one. We do thank you for being here. Happy holidays, everybody. Until next time.